sound.
You can even see the little sound bar moving now. Thank you to whoever said...
6 official.
Whoever pointed out that, yes, we didn't have any sound.
And amazing that the other people who've been watching haven't pointed it out sooner.
How many people watching?
Well, a few. A handful. It's, interesting.
Should we restart the stream?
Well, I can't. I've got to go, but if you felt like it.
I've got to go too as well. What's the time now?
Obviously,
all right.
Well, just recap what you've been saying.
Yeah, I'll recap what we've been going over is that basically I'm making a grenade launcher here. And probably the key thing was that it needs to be one-handed. So there was a lot of toing and froing over getting the design in a way that would make sense for using as a one-handed weapon. Not ridiculously oversized. It needs to feel a bit steampunky, which is probably the bit that's missing right now from the video. It's starting to get there, but it needs that sort of next level of stuff. It needs the barrel flared out. It needs some kind of carving on the stock or something like that, and maybe a little gas canister or some copper pipes that's driving a mechanism or a cog. In the end, I think I ended up putting the cog near the front, where that little rectangular bit is near the front of the magazine. Kind of like a little mechanism there that's driven by an auger screw.
Mm-hmm. Your topic must be interesting even without sound, because we have had viewers sitting there watching this.
They're probably going, it might be lip reading, like the Lip Readers Association of New Zealand. They've been practicing with us.
Using Twitch. But we do appreciate 6 Official, and nice to see you back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd still be silent.
Silent Bob.
Yes.
Is it Silent Jay and Bob?
Jay and Silent Bob.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Silent Bob.
I'll be Silent Bob.
How's it going on the game, by the way? How is it going? It's going pretty good.
So where are we?
Getting there.
About 45 levels out of 60 done?
Yeah. And we'll be focusing on the...
Pretty much all the characters are done?
Yeah. There's just a lot of polish and things like title screens and menus and that kind of thing that we need to get.
Scoring sound.
That's what I was doing this morning, was kind of... I've built like a title screen mock-up for the show, but...
and you are concepting the last of the weapons, really?
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, this is our area effect weapon. You've got a pistol, which is quite a sort of highly engraved and more personalised. And then there's the crossbow, which has also got quite a bit of engraving and is quite fancy, I guess.
Yes.
So this is more utilitarian. It's less engraving, a little bit more maybe beaten up and bashed around. And
yes, this isn't the cutlery, this is the axe, basically.
Yeah, the axe. But yeah, I found this quite challenging, this whole concept, just getting the right mix of things going on. The magazine possibly is still a little bit quite modern feeling, but it's quite hard to make what is effectively 6 cylinders strapped together. Get the blend between utilitarian and functionality, and maybe got a slight vibe of steampunk about it. I was considering having sort of scroll work or something on there, but as soon as you animate something like that, having it sort of rotate 1 or 2 clicks after each shot, it kind of gets messy. They had that problem the other day with the pistol, actually.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, something to do with, because it had lots of fancy engraving on the actual chamber. Yeah, it created issues with the rotation. Oh, here we go. I'm making notes. Add Victorian elements. Blunderbuss flair.
Okay.
So that was what I was thinking of at that time.
That's a beautiful looking pistol, no doubt about it.
Some engraving. At this point in time, I was contemplating having like bands of engraving down the end of the thing. Brass drum ends or bands.
Having a brass band.
God,
that's a bit of overkill.
What I end up doing, remember I was saying that I was considering having like a hinged flap there to hide the join line.
Yeah.
But it didn't. When I thought about it, it didn't really make sense because it may hide too much. Look at that.
And how do you rotate the drum?
I am about to leave just before you give your explanation.
Okay.
But I won't be back.
All right.
But carry on as best you can without me.
Goodbye to Margaret.
It's like what Arnold wouldn't say.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
won't be back.
I won't be back.
There we are. We'll just centre us now.
Attention seekers.
See ya.
To you.
Let's see what I'm up to here. Right, so going back to my... trying to remember what I was doing here. I'm sampling the barrels. I can't remember why I did this. I know there was good logic behind it. Oh yeah, I know why. Yeah, Sergi was our 3D guy was querying me on how this magazine looks from the end, or like is it solid?
Yeah.
Because from the side view it can be hard to tell. Is it going to be sort of shaped like this with little niches, or has it got actually a circular disc on the front edge? So what I ended up doing was exaggerating the main barrel position with that darker, larger, flared sort of barrel end. And then, so you see how the actual magazine's offset on that left view? Like it's not perfectly symmetrically centered. So what I was considering was, if on the perspective view, if that little canister, the gas canister, you can see how it now has got like two pipes come into a little canister, then there's like an auger screw, and then there's a miniature cog, COG.
Yep. It's alright, it doesn't sound like anything else when you say it with a Kiwi accent.
No, every time I say cog, Sergi looks at me funny. It's quite funny. And that meshes with the large cog on the front disc of the magazine. So you can imagine that once it's animated, the little cog would only have to move, it might move 3 or 4 teeth, and then the big cog would move a couple of teeth, and the whole drum rotates around.
Yeah.
But because that canister's on effectively the left-hand side of the barrel, I had the idea that because your natural instinct is to have the magazine symmetrically click in at the 6 o'clock position under the barrel. But having that canister there made it like, well, if I've got this canister here, it's a point of interest on this side, then we can, if you're looking at it vertically, holding it in your hands, then it makes sense to rotate the magazine around maybe 30 degrees. And this bit here, I just took one of my earlier sketches and I was sort of doodling with, literally just grabbed the square marquee tool and just cut the bottom half of the barrel out. As I was saying earlier, normally you wouldn't do this with a high velocity round weapon because the thing would blow up in your face, but
yeah.
Something like a grenade launcher that's got low velocity rounds, you can get away with chopping big chunks out of the barrel. And I did mention that I would bring in our pistol, so you can see the difference between the pistol. It's a little bit sleeker.
Yeah.
And here I'm just sort of playing around with the scale, going, right, if the pistol's yay big, how big is this hand?
See a 6 official.
Yeah. How big is this one-handed grenade launcher going to be? And there's a fine line between getting sensibly big and ridiculous. So.
Well, it's starting to look.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, you can see there's lighting differences between those two concepts, but the idea is there. This particular rendering that I'm noodling with there is it's more of a scale reference than anything. The modelers will probably get the majority of the info from the perspective view, and they'll refer to the side views occasionally.
Yep.
Again, as I said earlier, I was playing around with this weapon, the shell look and feel of it. Instead of having it be entirely made of metal, maybe the middle section is little bands of wood, like a barrel, a miniature barrel shell. and just checking that the barrel is a sensible size that it looks like it would fit down. And there, something I play with a lot is levels and the values, and occasionally brightness and contrast, which I mean I just use keyboard shortcuts, so I forget what I'm actually doing because I do it so almost mindlessly.
Automatically, yeah.
But what is it? Control L and Control M I use to toggle, which are sort of Photoshop defaults. I think Control L brings up levels, which I use a lot because you can just sample the whole gun and just tweak the levels. Just Control L and just drag the middle slider left or right slightly to make it slightly brighter or darker.
Yeah.
You can pinch it in quite quickly, just like looking at that immediately. Actually, it's not too bad, but always an area like say inside the barrel is always going to be much darker values than on the outside, just for logical reasons. It's darker in there.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't looking quite right, I'd just literally would just lasso through the end of the barrel. Even if you've got bits of the white sections, it doesn't matter, because if you bring up levels, just Control L and just grab play around with the sliders. You can grab just the black values and darken them instantly, and it doesn't really affect the light values. So if I did grab the end of the barrel, it wouldn't affect the sort of the rim bit, which is much lighter. So it's a real quick way to adjust stuff on the fly. Just literally zoop, lasso it, copy it, paste it to another layer, Control L, drag the slider, done. And it becomes second nature that you sort of do it quickly, and someone watching over your shoulder goes, what the hell was that? But
yeah,
I find there's certain things that I just do that very quickly. Generally the levels, Control M, I can't even remember what Control M does, it brings up.
I don't know, do you have a lot of shortcuts on your Wacom as well?
No, like my home Wacom, I use an Intuos 2, which is, God, I don't know how old it is. It's pretty old now.
Mm-hmm.
What's that one I've got there? Intuos 5 or 6, I can't remember.
I don't think it's got a number actually. It's the Intuos something rather professional, which I think equivalent, so where it is in the range is about where the Intuos 4 was previously. So.
But I know I'm kind of old school in that because a lot of the new tablets do have a lot of functionality. You can bring up, pop-up menus and all kinds of stuff, but I literally just I like having it stripped down to where you just got the pen, and I have the slider on the left hand side just rigged up to my brush size. And even though my old tablet does have a couple of buttons next to it, I don't even use them. I just use the slider for my brush size, and I always have my pen rigged up to the upper back button for Control Shift Z, so I can just tap on the pen to go back through as many iterations as I want.
Okay.
Which is really quite stripped bare. I know a lot of people use all kinds of buttons on there for Control Shift whatever, but I just like having one hand on the keyboard, does all that, and the only time it comes off the keyboard is if I want my brush bigger or smaller. Yeah. And it just works for my brain. But everyone's different. Let's see what's happening on the video.
Not much.
Looks like it's frozen at the moment. I must have been
you're at lunch
or talking to someone. What else can we say about this little guy?
Well, it's definitely starting to look like a thing. I think adding, the way you've done that gas canister on the side has definitely changed the way that weapon actually feels.
It's tricky to, because when you do multiple different weapons and they all have to kind of feel like the same game, it is quite tricky to not have them all end up looking like carbon copies that are slightly bigger or using exactly the same materials and all that kind of thing. But they still have to feel like they belong in the same game. So it is quite a tricky balance. I mean, at the moment, this one possibly feels a little bit dark, and it might be something that when it gets to the modelling stage, I'll probably have a chat with Sergi about just the materials of the actual barrel, it might be that we use the same material off the pistol within. Ross, what's he use? Keep wanting to call it Painter, which is a 2D app. What's his software? Oh, not Unreal. I'm having a real brain meltdown.
I don't know. So I'm trying to. So this is Sergi's software.
Yeah.
So he uses Substance Painter.
Yeah, Substance Painter. But whenever I say Painter, I think of Corel Painter, which is
right.
a 2D painter.
Okay.
Substance. That's what I was thinking of. We'll be able to possibly use the same barrel material that he used in Substance, but maybe customize it and darken it a bit, or add more grime and scratches to it, just to get it feeling similar. Now,
okay.
In the grand following of all orthographic views, there's a section here where I'm probably I'll just grab my lasso tool and sample any bits out of that perspective view and copy and paste them across and shrink them down and plonk them onto the other views, the side view, and just make sure that everything that's on that view matches and that everything makes sense. I think eventually I look at it and realise that on the perspective view, the trigger should actually be a bit more forward, and when you look above the trigger on that view right there, see how there's like a vertical straight line where the stock ends.
Yep.
And if you look at the other views, it's a little bit hard to see, that line where the stock ends is much more forward.
Yeah.
So there's more stock. The stock's actually quite deep and goes a long way on that one. So eventually I go in and paint that out as well. Video stop there. Oop, back into it.
Another little pause for coffee or tea or whatever. I have to say, I don't think we should have done budgeting and project planning yesterday. We seem to have lost some permanent viewers.
Oh, did you have not do the stream yesterday?
No, we did the stream, but what we tried to do was to actually show off some of the project planning that actually goes into like setting up for June 6th. So we actually did a bit of that on the screen. And I just think people really like to see the art stuff. They don't really care about the admin of putting together.
It's like forcing someone to watch an hour of accounting.
Well, it wasn't really accounting even. It was just getting a list of stuff that needs to finish. I think it was just unlikely to really impress people. So we probably won't do any more project management on the stream, even though it really is a vital part of getting things done.
You can actually see where the mouse is moving now.
Mm-hmm.
I am going and pointing at those little areas by the trigger, and I realise something's not quite right. That concept doesn't quite match that with the layout. I think I even stopped here purposely and went like that with the mouse a lot, so that when the video played it was obvious, okay, I'm talking about this bit.
Okay.
And it's a case of, that's when you sit back and you go, right, which version do I go with? Which one makes more sense? I can't remember which way I went. I think I altered the perspective view to match and look a little bit more like the side view.
Yeah, which makes it a little more intricate, sort of.
There we go. So what am I doing here? I'm grabbing the barrel, which I duplicated.
Yeah.
Just painting bits in. So that's a classic example. You see how I just literally just grabbed the selection marquee tool and just dragged a box around something. Control C, Control V to paste it, and then just dragged it over, duplicated it, and it's a really quick way to sample stuff across. And I can't say enough times, I mean, I'm sure I say every time there's a stream, but I strongly advise people to get used to using masks if you're a budding 2D guy.
Or bank robber.
Yeah, masks, yeah. And they're one of those things, they're a struggle to get your head around at start, but they're extremely powerful.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I kind of imagine it like, you know, the old school panel beaters, like the really quality panel beaters that used to do like real fancy graphics, like flames on a car.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that process where they would use masking tape and masks and literally mask out negative details and then go in with a spray brush and spray on some flames, and then they'd peel it all off and lay down more tape, the opposite of what they just did, and spray a different colour on the other side of it. It's much the same process, but just digitally.
So which is your favourite weapon so far of the ones you've actually designed?
Possibly the pistol.
It does look pretty.
Yeah, it does look pretty. It's hard because I haven't seen this one in the game either. There's bits of the crossbow that look quite nice in game as well, just the way that it turned out.
Yeah.
I
Does
think,
it still
think
sit
this
light to
one
barrels?
this one has the potential to look quite nice in game because it's like every sort of shooter that you always play. Everyone loves the boomstick.
Yeah.
That should be its name, boomstick. But I think I called it the Blundervolver, which sounds like some nasty German implement. I don't know.
Some sort of revolving mistake maker.
Yeah, here we are, probably starting to. Because from a perspective point of view, when you look at that angle, you probably shouldn't be able to see the whole trigger area. It should be slightly occluded by that chamber in front of it, the magazine. So that's why I just sampled that little area, cut it, paste it, and then basically laid it underneath, I think. Yeah, and there we go. I'm just starting to try and reshape that stock.
Yeah.
And work out, okay, I actually went the opposite direction from what I remembered. I thought I was going to just bring the whole thing forward, but I still wanted to see some of the shape of the actual barrel, the main barrel.
Yeah.
Otherwise it does start to feel like it's just a 6-barreled gun. You want a little bit of the main barrel sticking out the back of the magazine area.
Is that your phone?
Yeah, it'll be. It's just my reminder that it's
Probably
mine.
buzzing the microphone.
I wonder how long it's been vibrating. So there's a lot of noodling here where I'm playing with quite small stuff just in that little area behind that magazine, trying to figure out what's in there. Is there going to be little holes, or is it? I actually think from looking at it now, I probably should have brought the stock fractionally higher, but so what I did there was just sample that layer and flipped it horizontally, and using the clone brush just to paint in some wood, and then I flipped the selection just by going Control Shift I, flips the current selection, inverses it on itself, so then I can just paint on the other side without having to, you know, deselect my current selection and then get out the tool and do it by hand again. You can just switch it and flip it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see what I was getting at there. I was trying to carve out that, make this view match the other view in some form. And then I've just grabbed a big soft brush and just painting into that selection.
I'd have done it the other way, so I've got rid of that hollow over there by adding
Yeah,
detail.
that's a possibility. Sort of when I look at it now, I probably prefer it. I think you're probably right. It might look better with the stock going all the way forward, So it might be something I mentioned to Sergi when he models it, or I can tweak that. It'll only take 10 minutes to tweak that image. It does feel slightly chunkier for some reason, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you get this a lot. Like you'll spend ages drawing something, and normally it happens when you take a break, and 2 hours later you come back to the image and you start painting, and you sit down and look at it and go, oh, what was I thinking? That bit's wrong. You know, it just jumps out at you. In this case, it's probably the benefit of doing these streams that you sit there watching yourself work and you notice stuff that you've done that's maybe not slightly wrong.
Yeah, so it's not a bad QA tool actually doing this stream. Even better with sound on.
And this is another thing that I do a lot.
Hey, do you know what's funny about that? Well, Margaret's complaining about me not plugging in the network. No sound. Nobody gets to hear it. Nobody gets to know it happened.
The notes I'm writing on screen now are more for the 3D guys and just general, you know, for the image. But quite often I'll have, might even be able to see it in the layer stack. There'll be 2 layers called notes, and one of them is my scribble notes, and one's the final notes that make the rendering look nice. Pretty much everything I ever draw, even in like a personal painting I'm doing at the moment that's this like futuristic sci-fi cityscape, I'll have a notes layer at the top of the stack, and I'll just scribble random stuff on there like I need highlights here, or change this color tint, remove this guy's eyelashes, whatever. Because as you zoomed, quite often you zoomed in like really close on an image, and then every now and then you zoom back and check the whole image, and you'll flip it around and zoom back in. But quite often the little ideas you have when you're zoomed in, you forget them.
Yeah.
So I just have another layer, and as soon as I have an idea like, oh, this pebble here looks stupid, I'll just zoom out and quickly draw a white line around it with an arrow saying fix pebble.
Yeah.
And you remember to fix it later. The amount of little things that you just forget otherwise is incredible. So it's just a good practice that I've gotten into, and it seems to help with my workflow.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much when I'm doing little sort of thumbnail-y stuff like this, but if I'm doing a big painting, it definitely helps.
Okay. We'll just come back over the silent part, but I guess it's probably time to wrap up the stream. It's really sad that the entire first half of the thing is missing video, but now missing audio.
Well, we might need a checklist that we go through right at the start. Is audio plugged in?
Is network plugged in?
Is Lincoln clicked the streaming button on his computer? Yeah.
We've certainly had our fair share of little issues, I guess. But usually what I do is I turn the sound up on this when we're actually sitting here.
Oh, just to hear the audio.
And I hear it, then I turn it down. But everybody always looks at me and Margaret tells me off. Because it's disturbing. Or she makes a comment, I guess. And I really should have done it today, because I would have known straight away there was no audio. So I shouldn't, I definitely shouldn't get out of the habit.
So apologies to anyone that was watching and didn't hear the first half. I guess you sat there and just watched, or went away. One or the other.
I guess it would still be interesting to just watch to see Lincoln actually come up with his concepts. Oops, my pen. But that's it for today. So this is Brook and Lincoln, and Margaret was here, talking about the development of our zombie horror game After the Light, and in particular talking about the generation of the concept art for our grenade launcher. So we'll catch you at 1 PM New Zealand Standard Time tomorrow, or 1 AM UTC, or whatever time zone you're in. Do the math, because I haven't got it anywhere. And yeah, we'll be talking about something else. So hopefully Linda's got some stuff maybe. I think Sergi's away all week. Yeah, so we'll catch up with you tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Cheers.
See ya.